Hi, I'm Erik Mansur. I do product marketing for a living, but my job is to tell Ziflow stories. In the window, right alongside me, is the very excited and very amazing Rachel Larsen from The View Pro. Hi, Rachel. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
It is our pleasure, truly. For those of you who are unfamiliar, The View Pro is a global creative agency that builds stunning 3D floor plans, site maps, renderings, and virtual tours for real estate clients, primarily in the multifamily housing space. So if you've been on the hunt for an apartment or a condo somewhere in the world over the past couple of years, you've likely seen some of The View Pro's work. They started in 2017 as a boutique rendering studio, and now they've become a full-scale marketing solution provider with 50 plus people around the world serving some of the biggest names in real estate. And while their visuals are quite jaw-dropping, it's the way they work with clients in a honest, collaborative, and efficient approach that sets them apart from their competitors in the space. Behind all of those glossy renderings and those pretty pictures is a very tight process that is powered by tools like Ziflow and governed by a gal named Rachel that keeps her team on track using feedback, streamlining revisions, and keeping projects moving in the right direction. Rachel, that's sort of my company boilerplate introduction. Tell me a little bit about your role at the View Pro. Let's start with where you're based and what a typical day sort of looks like for you.
Of course. So I am based in Texas. I am near Dallas, Texas. I have been with the View Pro coming up on 3 years as their senior project manager. My typical day to day is a lot of client communications, making sure that we understand their vision, making sure their goals are being met, the renderings come to life exactly how the clients anticipated. So I am communicating a lot with our production team to make sure that they understand the client's needs, relaying all the information back and forth to make sure everyone's on the same page, working collaboratively with all of the team members so that, again, we are creating the view that clients have in their minds, bringing it to life with the drawings, with the renderings. So we do a lot of multifamily, but we also do a multitude of different companies that are looking to create spaces and give people ideas of what it could be. So it's very creative, and I love that we do so many other renderings, not just multifamily, and can really broaden the views people have and bring them to life, which is really great to see them.
I actually am very curious because we talk about the View Pro as sort of a global, sort of an agency for a very specific group of clients. But is your sort of connective tissue, is the relationship similar to the typical advertising agency? So I presume you have a client and you have a client services team, and then you have a creative team, but then you need somebody in the middle, like a design director, ad director, maybe yourself, that's coordinating all of those efforts. Am I describing that sort of crazy diagram correct? There's sort of client services, client creative. There's a lot of ports in the storm that need to be connected by waterways, right?
Right. I would say our sales team and our account managers and the project managers are the creative aspect in terms of showing clients more of what we can do. I think a lot of times there is a ceiling that not a lot of people know the capabilities of maybe our tours or the benefit of the 3D floor plans or a site map. So they come to us with an idea and we say, this is a great idea. We can do this. Have you ever thought of this? Or do you want to try this? And so that really opens the doors to other marketing material that they didn't even know was available out there in the world, which is really great to showcase, yeah, this site map is great, but we actually have floor plates. Have you ever checked those out? You can see each floor and what amenities are on there. Or, you did these 3D floor plans. We can create these into virtual tours so your residents can actually see what they're stepping into. So it's really great to be able to take the knowledge that they have and expand on it.
Interesting. So there is actually a consultative approach that you guys embark on as well. So somebody may arrive at your website and then arrive at your doorstep expecting one thing, but then the client services team, the sales team sort of leans in and listens and says, well, what is it you're actually trying to do? You're trying to get to 80% occupancy of this multifamily housing. In order to do that, we could certainly simply do a site map or a floor plan. But what about a 3D rendering to give people who are coming from out of town an idea of what their apartment could look like? Am I pulling things out of the air, or does that make sense?
Exactly. Some clients are, right now we want to stick with what we're doing, but now we know. So if we have another community that might come up, we might go that route in the future. So just expanding their knowledge base on what's possible in the virtual reality world.
What is the type of feedback you get from a client? So you've got them set up with a particular project. You actually mentioned the vision, and then you translate that into the view. What type of visions do a lot of these real estate developers come to you with? What are they looking to achieve? What are they looking for, in a sense? And then how does that influence the feedback that they provide to your team?
Yeah, so we get all different types of client expectations. We work a lot with student housing. So getting those apartments up near the colleges, and what are college students going to care about the most? The amenities. So we recommend, let's get some model units renderings, of course, but let's focus on the amenities because that's what those residents are really going to love. Where then maybe you have a multifamily for senior living that we want to showcase the walkability or the exterior views, the landscape. So understanding what our clients' target audience is helps us to help them understand what we want to focus on. And the feedback that we get is always really positive. Our renderings look so real that sometimes you can't tell whether it's a photo or a virtual tour, or a rendering, which is always really fun to see the client's reactions of. Most of the time we're working with people and the communities are still in construction. So they only have an idea of what it could look like. And we send them these renderings that really brings their vision to life. The marketers, the interior designers, the architects, they work so hard. And to see it come to life, especially during the construction process, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but it is a headache from the start. So giving them this little piece of there's a light at the end of the tunnel and your property is going to look amazing, I think really helps morale. It boosts we got this. This looks amazing. So it's always really nice to see it finalize and get it to them and see them put it up on their website and all the traction that they get from it.
It's aspirational for them. It makes them think about what could be in a lot of ways.
Yes, it does. And another thing we do a lot is conceptual projects. So for a developer who has a building they want to sell a room to, we can create multiple renderings for different spaces. It could be a dentist office. It could be a dance studio. It can be a fitness room. Here's what it could be. Here's how your view could look. So that is also really helpful to bring for visual people, which I am a visual person. It's a lot easier to be able to digest and say, this is what that space is meant to be for, rather than getting a tenant in there, spending all that money to be like, yeah, this actually wasn't the space for us.
That's interesting. I guess at the start of our conversation, and I guess it took me 8 minutes to realize this, that in my brain, I'm thinking, oh, residential, floor plans, designs, brochures for a 80, 90, 200 unit, complex. But with so much of this downtown revitalization projects, many of these are mixed use. The bottom floor or the basement floor is the parking garage. The bottom floor are shops, restaurants, boutiques. And then the next 2 to 7 floors are residences. So not only are you rendering home floor plans of apartments and condos, but a lot of this is, well, you've got this vacant space that could be anything, but it's ultimately going to be retail or something of that nature. And you can give that same blank space a look and a feel that can appeal to a multitude of clients and help them fill that space faster.
Yep. Exactly. We can render just about anything. I just worked on a project that we actually did an expansion to a shopping center that had I believe a 7-story multifamily behind it. So they already have phase 1 of shopping center done. We're doing phase 2. Phase 3 is going to be the apartment complex. So adding in as we're going over time, once the retail space is all completed, then we move on to the multifamily. And so it's a development. It takes time. So being a part of that with the clients is always really fun, and giving them the ideas that we have, a fresh perspective, if you will, on some of the design aspects, because that is also something clients are still figuring out when they're working with us.
You mentioned working with clients on these types of imaginings, renderings, projects can be fun. I want to perhaps put you through a traumatic experience, and I want to take you back to a moment, perhaps before Ziflow, when those types of interactions were not as fun. When a project was received, a scope was discussed, and then outside of review and approval software, you were forced to sort of gather feedback and eventually get the project off the ground. And that was probably a bit more challenging. Can you tell me a little bit about how things were like before Ziflow in terms of making this process work?
Yeah, and I'm laughing because I would say projects before Ziflow were not as fun. The collection of edits was very, very challenging. And we only have, so for most of our products, we actually only allow 2 rounds of editing. Otherwise, you can go on forever. So we have to have somewhat of a cutoff. Before Ziflow, we were receiving edits however was easiest for the client, because we wanted to make sure their experience was the best as possible. So we received PowerPoints, we received Google Docs, we received Adobe. And the biggest challenge was for 3D floor plans or site maps or the still renderings, pretty much any product. Very common clients would say, change this to orange without anything else. No arrows, no notes, just change this to orange. So that process from kicking the project off, the editing rounds, the editing process was so long. It just took so long because we constantly had to say, hey, client, got the edits. Can you specify these? Let's get on a call. Let's talk about it. Let's go over it. Then we would also run into, oh, well, so-and-so didn't review this. Only one person did. So when we wouldn't know that, we would just submit the edits and proceed. And so we're going over editing rounds almost every time, which causes, that affects the profit at the end of the day. So Ziflow has allowed us to have everybody on one proof, have a decision maker that we know, okay, you are the one that's going to give the final approval. We can see who actually opens the drafts, which is amazing. We can have accountability. Hey, so-and-so, we didn't see you open this. Did you have any comments? Do you have any feedback? And then keeping all of the edits in one place, that is monumental, because edits can take up to 2 weeks. And after that point, a client goes, I don't remember what I said. And then they have to go find their edits, or we have to go find their edits and explain, these were the edits, they were incorporated. Now with Ziflow, they can just compare, click on each edit, and it'll, not only that, but it brings them right to the area they were talking about. And it's so much easier for the client to make their reviews. It's so much easier for us to be able to digest the information, especially with the attachments, because before, everything is coming via email. You have so-and-so sending you this attachment, so-and-so sending you this note, and you have to try to keep it all organized. It's very easy to miss things and to drop the ball. So Ziflow has eliminated all of that complication, all the misunderstanding. And it's been, I would say, it's coming up on a year, and I would say now, maybe a year and a half. And I've only had 2 clients not use Ziflow. And I work with a lot of clients. So that's like monumental.
That's amazing. And I actually want to relate that back briefly to what we just talked about, this idea of, the mixed use developments that you're working on. I have to assume a real world example. Down the street from me is one of those fancy mixed use development plazas. And to your point around trying to entice a new tenant, there is a new brand specific shoe and apparel. I don't want to name them by name or mention them by name, but there's a swoosh on the side of the stuff. They're moving into what was an empty space. I
Right.
presume that working with a client like that would be different than working with a housing developer. So the units 2 floors up,
Mhm.
those two clients are probably very different in terms of adoption of a feedback and approval tool, or even giving you feedback in the first place. Do you feel that there's a bit of a gap or a difference between one type of client, one type of reviewer, and another type with regards to this type of providing feedback and providing structure to the process?
I think it depends on a few factors. I understand there are a lot of platforms out in the world, and a lot of different companies and clients use all sorts of platforms. So one thing is just an umbrella that I don't want to learn how to use a new platform, which you can't blame some people for that. When I have situations like that, usually I'm finding myself getting on a call with a client and doing the edits for them over the call. I would rather spend an hour with you and get them in Ziflow than have to spend an hour trying to decipher your edits, your how you made them. Another thing is just willingness. Again, I guess it's the same. It's the same willingness to get on the platform and utilize it. Some people just know Adobe and they feel more comfortable doing it that way, so they do it that way. And as long as it's clear and concise, no problems. But it falls back to consistency
Mhm.
and collaboration. You can just do so much more through Ziflow, which is why I'm constantly encouraging clients, even if they send me edits in emails, I will go and add them to Ziflow. And I'll say, hey, these are added on Ziflow now if you want to add more edits. And I'll just basically force them to use it, even if it's me having to do it, because
You
it's
say force them. I say change management, right? Like you're encouraging them, right?
encouraging, strongly encouraging, and continuing to use it whether they're using it or not.
Yeah.
Just to make sure all the projects are the same, everything's consistent, it's all very streamlined.
And eventually they come around, right? They recognize, oh, well, that actually really was easy. Whether you being on a call with them and giving them some one-to-one coaching, or you taking some of their manual old school feedback and plugging it into the new school hot rod that you're using, it helps them get over the hump a little bit, right?
Right. I actually just had a call today where I did that. Worked with the client for about an hour making edits on all the virtual tours, and she really appreciated. She even said, like, this is a new platform I didn't feel comfortable with, and I knew if I walked with you through it, I would feel better, and I already do, and I know they're going to work with us again in the future. So that was an investment. It was worth the time, because now I know she's going to do it in for the next project.
Yeah, you've solved the problem for good now, where it's not going to be an issue. It's not going to come up later. Now she's going to have a level of familiarity with our tool and with the tool that the View Pro would prefer to use, and it's never going to be a hotspot that's going to affect a relationship again.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it, and that's where I think you talk about consistency. It's not just consistency within an individual project of where feedback goes and where approvals are gathered and where accountability happens. It's consistency across the entirety of the client relationship, because you can basically tuck individual projects for one client into a folder, and you can make reference to things they've said in different projects, right? I mean, I have to assume that there's some level of accountability that goes from project to project within a given client relationship, right?
Yes, companies have consistencies. They have their branding, they have their um, the things that are a must in their communities, or the style that they have, their interior design. There are a lot of similarities. We do catch and pick up on those things so that as we're working with clients, and most of our clients are reoccurring, we learn and we pick up on the things. So their experience over time should get better and easier because we're constantly trying to give them a better experience, anticipate what they're going to ask us because we've already worked with them in the past, and then just try to be as proactive as we can to get across the finish line. We all want to get our work done, and I know that we're a checkbox on someone else's list to get all of their marketing material out or to get this over to a developer. So we do what we can to provide a great service, to provide great products to our clients, and that's why they like to come back.
I love that. I love that. If there is one, I would say if there's one feature in Ziflow that you could point to as being the key feature that sort of got those clients to adopt or got those clients to say, "Oh, I get it now. I understand it." Like I'm totally bought in as to what you're doing. Perhaps with the client that you were just talking about, like what is there a feature or a set of features that say, "Oh, this is a must-have now. We can't proceed with another project without this." What would that feature be, and why would that be that feature?
I can't say that it's the commenting because that's obvious.
Industry standard. Yeah.
I can't do anything without that anymore. Marking up, commenting in the markups is huge. Aside from that, it might seem a little odd, but the attachments, adding attachments is really huge for my industry because there is constant changes, especially if we're working on a project that's actively in construction. Things change all the time, structurally, design wise. They might have wanted to purchase a rug that's no longer available, so they have to switch rugs. So there's a lot of additional references that we're getting as we're editing, and it's a lot easier to throw it in Ziflow and keep it on a comment than just having it in a random email somewhere. So that attachment feature is very, very helpful. And I love that you can attach more than one as well. Not just one, you can attach as many things as you need, which is really great.
Yeah, I think so much of commenting is tell me, but with attachments it's show me. So don't just explain to me what has changed. Like upload the pattern or upload the specific product that you found on the web, the company that you're buying it from, and we can easily add that carpet into our renderings. We can easily add that picture. And to your point around consistency, you're going to ensure the next round of revisions aren't going to be thrown out of whack because you picked the wrong, you guessed wrong on the color. It's going to be very specific, precise, because they showed you, they didn't just tell you, right?
Right. Exactly. And it's funny you say that about the color because we get that comment a lot. Change this to blue, change this to green. And we have to ask, what blue? What green?
Which green?
Like, I know it seems silly, but there are hundreds of different shades. So if we can get the exact reference that you want, then we don't have to do another, yes, like you said, we don't have to do another editing round. They already have that exactly how they wanted it.
Plus, in a lot of ways, these are 3D renderings. So they may say, Pantone X is what we're painting this wall. And then as you're putting this together, they realize, like, I don't really like the way the light hits that and sort of adjust the color a little bit. They're making proactive choices based on the evidence they have. And then they're utilizing a review and approval tool, your preferred tool, Ziflow, and they're recognizing, oh, gosh, maybe I should go in a different direction with this because now I'm seeing it in real time in a sense, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We have, I would say our clients fall into a few boxes. You have your projects that are already completed. The building's already up. We're going to maybe go do some photography. Maybe we'll do some virtual staging so we can take a picture of the space and stage some furniture. You have your clients that are currently in construction and everything is going really fast. Like these are the ones that are just, and then you have your projects that are being created and they're not sure what they want to do with design. So they're actually working with us at the same time they're working with the interior designers, and they actually create what they want for the ID team to do. And they're going to take our renderings and say, this furniture, this interior design. And so that's really great because otherwise, how do you get those visuals? You have to, I think there's a lot of extra legwork being done, but then at this point you now have the visuals, but now you have marketing and you can put these up and you can get it in front of people. So kind of killing two birds with one stone.
I think about that all the time when I've worked with or connected to interior designers. They've got an idea in their head. Hey, this pattern and this color and this type of, topiaries, and they're just trying to translate to you using words and perhaps representative samples of what this is going to look like. And in a sense, the interior designers can come to your team and you can actually show the client what it's going to look like literally translate what was in the interior designer's brain to something resembling real life, right? It's
Yep.
got to be incredibly eye-opening, as you mentioned before.
Yeah, and then they can make the executive decisions before they're spending the money on something that weren't going to love to begin with, because they can see it. They can go, oh, that those art pieces don't go with the rest of the aesthetics. Don't buy them. Try these ones instead. And so they can pick and play and plug and try different things out. So that is exciting, and being a part of that and also helping them give, my honest feedback. I mean, it's not, nobody asks for it, but I like to give it. I love this piece of art, or how these colors go together, or this could probably look better if we like scooched over to the side. I do like to give my opinion because I'm so involved in the project, and sometimes it's nice to have fresh eyes. So I like to give my thoughts as well. Sometimes just penny for your thoughts.
Not only that, but you've also got the learned experience of having done this many, many times. So you've
Yeah.
seen how, things go well, and how, how well they look, and how sometimes they don't. It's,
Yeah.
and you've got that in your back pocket, and you can say, I've been here before, I've done this before. Let me give you
Right.
some advice, right?
I've seen this before. It doesn't look how you think it's going to look. No.
Right.
But
Right.
yes, exactly. Got that. I have that knowledge, and that's what we try to do, expand our clients' knowledge.
We're talking about your experience now. You've probably worked on countless projects working at the View Pro, and you've drawn from that experience in a lot of ways. Is there one that sticks out in your mind where Ziflow made a significant difference in getting that project not just done, but done really well? Like, is there a project, again, you don't need to mention it by name, but something that you were like, oh gosh, if we didn't have Ziflow in order to get this to where it got to, it may not have ever gotten there?
I mean, it helps all of our projects. There's not one I could pinpoint that, it's been so long now for me. I can't think about not using Ziflow in my life. I really couldn't. Um, I will say it's really broadened how we can use Ziflow. I will say that, historically, um, we started by putting on our 3D floor plans and the still renderings on our flat products, but we also create these 3D animations. So we'll take all of the products that we created from the project, all the still renderings. Usually there's a handful, at least 5, right? Model units, amenities, exteriors. So we'll actually put those all together and create this really beautiful cinematic video. And so we can put that up onto Ziflow. And what's really nice about that is editing the animation can be challenging because it's a video. So you have to say, oh, at this time, which is very tedious. I love that Ziflow will stop it at that time. So when you go back to review, it takes you right there. So that's been a really big game changer, because prior to that, we had to get on calls for every time there was edits for that product, because there's really no other way to give edits that are clear and concise. It's very challenging to convey edits for a video. So that
Yeah.
was a really huge.
Pause there. Oh, stop there. Oh, no, no, back up 2 seconds. Oh, no, no. And doing that over Zoom must be, I mean, it must have driven you crazy, right?
Very time consuming, very, very time consuming. And a lot of people have a lot of different opinions. So we have to stop, talk about it. And there's not much I can say, right? This is a team collaborate. So I'll just be sitting there. It was great. Type. So it's given me back time. It's given their clients back time. So that was a really huge one. I really love that we can put videos on there. And I didn't know that when we first got Ziflow, which was really cool.
Oh, interesting. So you had entered sort of the Ziflow ecosystem with an expectation that you would use it for a particular type of project. But then as your either product line expanded, or as you recognize that there's value in using online proofing, or review and approval for a different type of project, it sort of opened your eyes to other possibilities, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And the ability to put a brief eliminates having to do extra emails, because you can put in the brief, hey, this is the animatic, this is the draft of the animation, this is what we're expecting out of you. If you have questions, let us know. And then in a couple of days, we can check in. Has the client opened this? Nope. Okay, now it's time to send an email or get on a call and say, hey, following up, we got the animation over to you. And then, from there, do you want to get on a call? Did you have any questions? But originally Ziflow we were anticipating it for our 3D floor plans the most.
Mhm.
Because it's such a small product and there's a lot of finer details in there, it's really hard to get clear and concise edits, especially because we do sometimes do hundreds of floor plans per a community.
Mhm.
So that was a big game changer, being able to put everything in there. Everyone can view everything, add the comments, nice and pretty, buttoned up. It's great.
It would be foolish for me to assume that Ziflow is the only software you work with in order to get a creative or a larger project like this over the finish line. So I presume you also have a project management tool that you use that in some way connects to Ziflow. What project management tool do you use, and how does that have an interplay with the work that you're doing from a review and approval perspective using Ziflow?
Yeah, we use Airtable, and I think we could get a little bit more integrated with Ziflow and Airtable. They are pretty separate right now for us because they're very separate. Um, the reason we use them are for very different reasons. So
Okay.
Airtable is our just project management software, and this is where
Mhm.
we're just keeping everything organized for our projects. It's really for just internal,
It is
whereas
in.
Ziflow is all external. And so how we use Ziflow is all of our project managers will explain to our clients that that is our editing platform that we utilize. We have branded our Ziflow to be our brand. So we do say like, this is our editing platform. It does say Ziflow, but this, we have our own little guides on how to use it. And then once we are actually sending that to the client and getting the feedback, we're reviewing, making sure all the edits are clear. If anything is unclear, we'll ask questions we can ask them via Ziflow. And then we will export the proof, the large file format. So we'll get all the exported to PDF. And then we will save that in our Google Drive. So we'll save the PDF, and we'll also add the link, and we'll send that over to our production team. So they have a PDF version that they can either print out or reference that. But then they also have the Ziflow link if they need to go back and they want to look at the edits via Ziflow, because sometimes it's a little bit more clear on the platform than it is on the PDF document. And so from there, they'll just use that as basically their checklist. These are all the edits that we have to do. Utilize that, use it for QC. Okay, did we get all these edits done? And from there, we pretty much rinse and repeat every editing round. We'll go and export those new drafts. We'll save them, send them through Airtable.
So you are not only creating a second level of accountability with an exported PDF where comments, markup, even names of attachments are coming through within that activity log, essentially that proof report. You've got that set in stone. It is locked in as a moment in time, and that and the link to Ziflow you are sending to the production team, so the production team can get an even additional context within Ziflow, and then all of this stuff gets connected to your internal project management tool in Airtable. So you've got a source of truth, a backup source of truth, and then a full-on internal source of truth in a project management platform. Am I sort of reading that right? It's a lot of this is about client accountability, internal accountability, and broader project accountability, right?
Correct. Yes. And because we do still receive additional attachments or maybe notes, we will compile all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the project managers will then lock Ziflow.
Locked.
I locked so that we're not getting any other edits without knowing. Because that when I first started using Ziflow, that did happen where I would send a new draft and they'd say, hey, you didn't get these edits. And I'd look back at the PDF and I'd say, these aren't on the PDF. But then I'd look in Ziflow and they were in Ziflow. We did try to utilize the automatic lock feature. And I think the struggle was our clients didn't fully understand the decision making. So we had it set up in a way that it was only to lock when the decision maker made the decision. But when we first started utilizing the product, I just don't think we explained it thoroughly enough. And we were just kind of, what I was running into was proofs were getting locked without me locking them. So
Right.
we did have some kinks to work through. Who
Yeah, but
doesn't?
you wanted a level of manual oversight because it's part of your company's DNA is to say we have
Yeah.
two full rounds of edits, And
Right.
the View Pro, wanted to be the ultimate arbiter of when a round is over. So,
Yeah.
that level of automation is probably great for a lot of different companies, but specifically for your use case, you wanted to have some level of manual control. And frankly, that's
Right.
okay, right? You
Yeah.
know?
And it's great that it has that feature to manually do it. It's nice to
Yeah.
have both if we did ever want to go back to do the manual, or the automatic, but I do like the manual more. It's an accountability. I locked this, which means I submitted it, which means I don't need to do anything else with it.
So I think that tells the story, honestly, that there's no one way to enable, install, and utilize Ziflow. Like, there is a level of flexibility that will, rather than make you turn around and have to break your process and make it fit within the software you've selected. Instead, the software you've selected has the malleability and the flexibility to adapt the process that you have set up. If you want to
Yeah.
manually shut down a round of edits, you can do that. Or if the situation warrants it, you want to automatically do it, you can do that too. It gives you that sense of control that, frankly, there's a lot of software solutions, perhaps even some that you use, that don't give you that flexibility, and it's a bit more rigid. Whereas Ziflow, that flexibility is a bonus, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You have to change your processes to fit around the software. Ziflow really did just come into our process and made it better. We
Mm.
did not have to change anything we were doing. And I would say it was probably one of the smoothest transitions with a new platform I've ever experienced. Of course, it was a little bit difficult at first. Change is hard. But once clients realized how much easier it was for them, I mean, that was it. We're pretty much all on board with Ziflow. And the only thing I run into now is just, yeah, just comment, like too many comments maybe, because it's so easy to make all the comments, they just go crazy. Or just any of the simple questions of, yeah, can you add attachments? Yeah, you can. This is, so it's been very helpful for our process. And that middle editing process is the one of the longest periods in the process. So anything we can do to speed it up was going to really push our projects in the right direction, which Ziflow did. And I still think there are so many features I probably don't know that could utilize our process, but because what it does, what it's meant for at its base is so powerful, I feel like I haven't needed to explore all of the extra bells and whistles that, like the workflows. I do utilize those, are really handy, especially when you have multiple renderings, having to type in the emails every single time. Oh, I can't tell you how nice it is to set up a project, set all the reviewers up to begin with. Then when I have a delivery, everything's already done. I'm just downloading it, adding my workflow, done. So nice. So simple too.
I want to double click on what you just said. You can't, it's off camera, but there's a podcast microphone in front of me, but I'm going to imagine this is a crystal ball. I want to talk about the future and, what are the types of features that currently exist within Ziflow, or if you have, gone to any of our product release webinars where we talk about future features that we're going to be developing, have you thought about some of those future features that you'd be excited to try? So whether they currently exist and you just haven't scratched the surface yet, or stuff that you've heard about and you would like to explore, what are some of those features that you'd like to, sort of add into your process as the next 3, 6, 9 months go by?
We do sometimes still receive edits via Adobe or PowerPoint. It would be great if they could upload to Ziflow so that even if they want to use, so what we'll do is we'll send something via Ziflow. They'll download it from Ziflow, which I don't know how because I have that turned off. But they will somehow get it from Ziflow, make the comments. If they could just re-upload it, that would be nice, because then I really want to try to eliminate all the email communications. We all have tens and hundreds of emails on a regular basis. So trying to eliminate as much email communication, but still having a solid streamline of communication with the client, I think is really useful. So it would be nice to be able to see them just re-upload whatever they edited on. That would be pretty neat.
So say for the sake of argument, something like if somebody were to have downloaded something as a PDF and they were to have left comments using Adobe Acrobat, uploading that back into Ziflow would absorb those comments as if they were Ziflow markup. That sort of would be an ideal feature you'd love to see happen.
Amazing. Amazing, especially because this doesn't happen very often, but there are times where I will still get handwritten edits on a printed piece of paper.
Come on now.
So if Ziflow could kind of pull that out, it would be great for our clients to see when a comment's not clear, because sometimes we can only depict handwritten notes so well. So it'd be nice for them to visually see the notes on the side and be like, oh, that note's wrong. And then they can make the correction right there.
Handwritten notes. I mean, you need to get new clients. I mean, we live in the future now. What are we doing with handwritten notes? They're Post-its. No, Rachel, we don't do Post-its here at the View Pro, right? That's crazy.
Right. You're telling me, but we're project managers, but we're also customer success. So
Yep.
We want to make sure, we really do want clients to have a great experience. So whatever we can do, and what I have done in the past, I will put the written notes on Ziflow and I will go and comment on them. I will box what the comment is and I'll type it out. So if Ziflow could do that for me and then I can just QC it and confirm with the client, that would save a lot of time.
Just like the View Pro, Ziflow is obsessed with making sure that our customers have a great experience, to use the phrase that you just used. So I like doing this every time I have one of these conversations, a little word association. If you were to describe your experience with Ziflow in one word, what would it be and why?
2 words come to mind.
Okay.
I would say collaborative and streamline.
Right.
I will use streamline because I think that is the most important for us, that Ziflow has streamlined our editing process. It's taken out the guesswork of how do I leave comments? And that is half of what our clients have to do. So it has taken away the headache for our clients to have to figure out how to make edits. How do I send these to all the people it needs to get to? And it takes away our headache of what do these edits even say? So it has really streamlined our editing process, which is more than half of the process. So, I mean, I couldn't, again, I keep saying it, but I really couldn't imagine right now us being successful and having the volume of projects that we have now without Ziflow. There's no way we would have the bandwidth to be able to go and try to comprehend all of the different editing forms people send to us.
Then you also said collaborative as one of your words. And that is something that we talked about at the top of our conversation, where so much of what it is you do, as you said, is customer success. You want this to be as much of a consultative approach with your clients as possible. So if I were to unpack what we just talked about in your use of that word collaborative, it's using Ziflow to sort of spur on conversations with the client and making it an ongoing discussion about the look and the feel of renderings, of project encompassing videos. Like, you want this to be sort of this discussion that just never ends. It just happens to happen digitally. Is that a good interpretation? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And, imagine somebody sends you a photo with 10 other people in the email and they go, hey guys, what are your thoughts on this? You're going to have email overload and all these different thoughts, opinions, and you can't follow it very well. Mm-hmm. So with Ziflow, you can do the same thing, but keep it all in one place. You can talk to the team. Hey, interior designs, is this the right light fixture? Hey, architect, is this wall go here? So, and we can comment on, so that nothing's getting lost, because things get lost in email really easily, especially if you ask more than one question to more than one person. That one person's not going to respond. So at least in Ziflow, it keeps a clear list of the comments, who made what comment, and then to reply and to ping people, it's a lot more effective than trying to collaborate via email.
So I guess this is my last question, and I guess it's because over these past 30, 40 minutes, I've learned so much about a really unique and interesting use case. You guys are an agency in many ways. These companies are ultimately using the View Pro to help them create marketing materials that's going to allow them to fill vacancies, whether it be retail or residential. But in so many ways, it's so not like a marketing agency. It's so not, oh, what is this billboard going to look like? What's this online ad going to look like? It is very specific to that real estate, like this is where this person's going to live or where they're going to set up shop and work. So if you had to give advice to another company inside or outside of your industry that has had similar challenges that you have had in the past with, outdated forms of communication or really interesting, unique projects that had to tackle, what piece of advice would you give to somebody who may have a unique use case, and what kind of advice would you give them?
We are all individuals who were put on this world to learn and live in life, and nobody really told us how we're supposed to do that exactly. So if I were to give anybody, advice that is dealing with struggles or dealing with frustrations in work, to know that you were not programmed to know this, and that you're learning and experiencing this for the first time, to have patience and grace towards yourself and towards others, and to be kind, truly. And I know it sounds kind of corny, but you never know what's happening in someone's life. And especially when we work remotely, it's desensitizing us to, you're talking to a human being on the other side of that computer that you don't know what's happening in their life. So give them the benefit of the doubt. Be the bigger person. Put a smiley face in your email. It's all okay,
This is the most uplifting end to an episode of Ziflow Stories I have ever had. I feel fantastic right now. I don't know. It was certainly not your intention. But I wish now I'm gonna have to talk to our product and engineering team and have them put a little thing at the top of every instance of Proof Viewer that says "Don't be a jerk." Everyone's got learned experience that no one knows what you're going through. That's just. It's the best. I'm so glad we added emojis to comments 2 years ago, because that really, and to your point, it helps. It certainly helps.
It really does. It really, just communication. Communication is so important in your personal life, in your personal relationships, in your work relationship. And if you can communicate effectively, I truly believe your day-to-day will be better. It'll be more clear. It'll be more concise. There will be that imposter syndrome will be taken away, because you know what you're doing. You know what so-and-so is doing. You've communicated, you've collaborated, you've confirmed. So it's so important.
No better end to an episode of anything, let alone Ziflow Stories. This was better than the end of The Sopranos. I cannot thank you enough for telling me your Ziflow story, Rachel. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. It's so great to talk with you today, Erik. I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate you for watching this episode of Ziflow Stories. If you want more conversations like this, focused on collaboration, creating great content, and the people that can make it happen, head over to our YouTube channel. And be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a single story we are there to tell. For Rachel Larsen from the View Pro, I'm Erik Mansur from Ziflow, and remember, great content connects, inspires, and transforms. To make it happen, keep your ideas moving, your stakeholders engaged, and your team motivated. Until next time, let your content flow.